So I'm very sorry I had to miss Ling Rinpoche's visit, but I was reading some of the comments that he made about the Abbey, and he mentioned more than once, at least as I remember, the harmony that he detected here at the Abbey. And I think that is one of the biggest compliments we could ever get. If you've lived at other Dharma centers, I won't say anymore. Or maybe I should say, if you've lived at some of the places I've lived before, yeah, that might be more accurate. And so, really seeing the community harmony in the sense of people working together, um, having a goal that is beyond ourselves, the goal of establishing the Sangha, establishing the Dharma in the West, and us all working towards that common goal. And then knowing that our own personal practice, of course, is one element of establishing the Sangha and establishing the Dharma. But it's not the be all and end all. It's part of that longer term project that we and many other people are involved in on this planet. And harmony in the Sangha, of course, depends on each person having some degree of harmony in their minds. Because when we don't have harmony in our minds, then when we interact with other people who also don't have harmony in their minds, then we have what's going on in the world. Everybody just vying for their own self, what they think will make them happy, which isn't necessarily what will make them happy, but they think it is, and then trying to overpower the wishes and needs and concerns of other people. So then the question comes, well, how do we make our own mind harmonious? Okay. Now, one way is through developing serenity, shamatha, because with the practice of shamatha, you suppress the manifest afflictions. However, suppressing the manifest afflictions doesn't free ourselves from them permanently, okay? It's just suppresses them. And then, of course, they come back. And they say that in our previous lives, we've all actualized shamatha or serenity before. We've all had single-pointed concentration. We've all even been born in these realms of, so much mental stillness that people are barely even conscious. And yet, because the afflictions have only been suppressed and not eradicated, then when that karma ends, kaboom, we're down in the desire realm, like right now. So serenity, while it's an essential element for eliminating the afflictions altogether, is not the only element, okay? And so the real thing is to combine serenity with insight into the nature of reality. In other words, to combine serenity with the view of emptiness, and then meditate on that repeatedly until we go from an inferential understanding of emptiness to a direct perception of it. Now the question comes, well, that sounds well and good, but how do we even get there? Okay. And so here's where we really have to start where we're at. Okay. And here's why the Lamrim teachings and the Lojong, or thought training teachings, are so important. Because our minds are really wild, and we can't sit down and develop serenity like that. We can't, let alone develop the union of serenity and insight like that. Okay? We need to learn how to quiet our mind on even a very gross level, okay? And so that involves, at least the way I've found is helpful for my mind, is I have to first prove to myself that my afflictions, my disturbing emotions, and the thoughts that lie behind them are something unrealistic. Because as long as I believe that my anger is based on a true perception of the situation, then I'm never going to want to get rid of it. As long as I think my attachment is my human right, then I'm never going to oppose it. As long as I think jealousy is the way to get what I want, then why try and counteract it? Yeah, as long as I think that arrogance will get me a better job and a better reputation, then I won't try to do anything with that one either. Okay, so I have to really spend time just looking at the stories and the thoughts behind these disturbing emotions and asking myself repeatedly, are they true? Yeah, are they true? And as I look more closely, I see that the thoughts behind my anger and my greed and my arrogance and, and jealousy and so on are really incorrect. I'm not seeing the situation, in even a conventionally realistic way. Okay. So there's that element of checking, the reality of the thoughts behind the emotions. And then second of all, checking whether those disturbing emotions benefit us in any way. Yeah. Does my anger benefit me? Well, yes, it makes me feel powerful. But after I've slammed somebody and humiliated them, how do I feel about myself? And what kind of karma am I creating that's going to influence my future? Yeah. Okay, I might be very greedy and self-centered and get what I want, but then is that really beneficial when then other people don't trust me and they don't like me because they see that I only think about myself? I want to have friends, but when I'm greedy and self-centered, who's going to want to be around me? And again, what kind of actions do I do with that kind of motivation? Yeah, the actions are not beneficial for me now or for the future. Okay, so these two things, checking the benefit of the emotions, checking whether the thoughts behind them are realistic or not. I find that is something I really have to go into in depth in order to be clear in my mind why I should oppose or remedy or apply the antidotes to these disturbing emotions. Yeah, because otherwise, if I don't really believe these things are antithetical to my own and others' happiness, then if I try and apply the antidotes, they're usually only half-hearted and they don't work. And I actually don't even apply them because after all, I'm right. Yeah. And then I just continue with the same old, which is, not getting me anywhere. Okay. So, I think it's important to have the long-term view, the union of serenity and insight that directly perceives emptiness, informed by bodhicitta, motivated by bodhicitta. Keep that as our final goal. But let's practice where we're at now, because if we can get a good handle on these gross emotions, especially by practicing the mind training techniques to see the situations in a different perspective, then when we try to develop serenity, it'll be much, much easier. Yeah, and because we'll have a handle on this wild elephant of our mind. Yeah, And then if attaining serenity is easier, then of course, unifying it with the realization of emptiness will also be easier. Okay? So we're all working in the same way. And because we're all working on the same thing, when one or another of us gets unharmonious inside and it affects everybody else in the community, when we admit, our internal disharmony and apologize for body and speech activities that harm others, then of course everybody understands and goes, yeah, I've been there too. I know what that's like, and I appreciate your acknowledging that, and I support you in working with your mind. And then harmony, is very easily restored in the community. Yeah, because we're all trying to be transparent, and we all forgive each other in the same way that we want other people to be patient and forgive us.